Good evening. It's my pleasure to bring the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting for December 14, 2020 to order. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Costa? Mr. Claus?
Here.
Dr. Rankin?
Here.
Mr. Walter?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here. You said Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Yeah, here.
Mrs. Ross?
Here.
President Shaw?
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Do any board members have announcements?
I have one, President Shaw.
Okay, go ahead, Vice President Wilson.
The boundary waiver application window is open for the 2021-2022 school year for students entering the K-8 grade levels. District bus transportation is not available for boundary waiver approved students. Please note, if your child currently attends a school on a boundary waiver, you do not need to reapply unless the child has reached the highest grade level at that school. Boundary waiver applications must be submitted by January 15th. For complete details, go to www.peoriapublicschools.org, scroll down to site shortcuts, and click on boundary waiver application.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Dr. Rankin?
Look, It's My Book giveaway. Our wonderful partners at Look, It's My Book have a special opportunity for students this week. On Thursday, during your school's meal distribution times, you can pick up several books for each of your K-4 children at no cost. Look, It's My Book has thousands of books ready to give to PPS students for the holidays, so don't miss out and head over to your school on Thursday this week during meal distribution times.
Mr. Klaus?
Winter break begins at the end of school day on Friday, December 18th. School will resume Tuesday, January 5th in a distance learning format. Distance learning will continue through Friday, January 15th, and the hybrid AB schedule will resume on Tuesday, January 19th.
Mr. Waller?
When Mr. Birch brings it out here, mine's not coming out, so he's going to give me a printed version, so if you have,
Okay, he's right behind you.
he is reminded. Thank you. Excellent timing. Little Free Pantries and $60.99 Roundtable. Peoria Public School primary, middle, and K buildings have Little Free Pantries to leave donations of non-perishable food and household items. In addition, the $60.99 Roundtable collects clothing, toiletries, and household items for Peoria Public School families. Donations may be dropped off at Richwoods High School, Roosevelt Magnet School, the AFT office at 733 Southwest Washington Street, the Roy Ricketts Warehouse on Lake Street, or the PPS Administration Building, 3202 North Wisconsin. Monetary donations may be made to the $60.99 Roundtable and mailed to Richwoods High School or AFT-IFT 733 Southwest Washington, Peoria, Illinois. Attention Roundtable. Thank you to Michelle Largent Remax, Knights of Columbus Spalding Chapter, Kiwanis Club of Peoria, and Jim Hutchison for their recent generous donations to the Roundtable.
Mrs. Ross? Mrs. Ross, did you have an announcement?
I do have an announcement, sir. Thank you. Sorry, couldn't get my mute off. The Peoria Public Schools Foundation virtual 365 breakfast will be January 7th. Curbside breakfast will be ready for pickup beginning at 7 a.m. in the parking lot of the Sheridan Village Hy-Vee supermarket. Breakfast will be available until 8:30 a.m. The virtual program featuring keynote speaker David Booth will begin at 9:30 a.m. Booth, a Manual High School alum, is Vice President of Basketball Operations for the National Basketball Association or the NBA. Make your reservations today for the PPS Foundation's virtual 365 breakfast by visiting www.ppsfoundation.org/event.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Karat?
Thank you, President Shaw. I have two announcements. The first one has to do with high school, coming back to school for second semester, and so it's called High School In-Person Instruction Summary. So the in-person instruction on the hybrid AB schedule for high school will resume on January 19th. The continued learning opportunities plus the in-person instructional days will be equal to 5 days of instruction during a week. Consensus was built between administration, our union leadership, and principals to ensure students are receiving the equivalent of the 5 days of instruction during each week. Over the 5 days during the instructional week, teachers will have the flexibility to choose from a menu of options to offer continued learning opportunities. And those options include some will live stream, some will do recording videos of the teacher, projects to be completed, assignments aligned to instruction during on-campus days, videos assigned from Discovery Ed, World Book, or internet, even flipped classrooms. Another option could also include teacher-generated ideas. There will also be office hours, which will be available multiple times a week after the instructional day, and that's after 1 p.m. for students who may need additional help. And these office hours will both serve as an additional support and can also help prepare students for their future college experience in seeking out professors' office hours time. You remember when we were in college, there were office hours for the professors. I used to go. And then additional monitoring will also take place to supply additional resources or supports for each individual student who needs that help. So that's the high school, what that high school experience will look like for second semester. And I'll also put out a call probably tomorrow to the seniors, the families of the seniors, just to share that with them. And then the other one has to do with, this one is much shorter, just to let our staff know, Peoria Public School staff, we are working on a vaccination survey for our staff. We're getting ready for that. We've not gotten any word yet. We're still waiting like everybody else. And so, but we are getting ready, and the survey should come out either tomorrow or Wednesday. And so I just wanted to let Peoria Public School staff, please be on the lookout for a survey going out this week that will help prepare the Peoria City, Peoria County Health Department for the COVID-19 vaccine distribution process that is soon to be underway in our area. And I'm asking them to please fill out the survey so that the health departments can allocate the proper amount of vaccine dosage for our district. So questions like, will you take it if it's available, high risk, and so forth. So it should be short. I think there are, 5 or 6 questions, not long at all. And that will just kind of give us a sense of the need as a district. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. And I have an announcement. Attention 8th grade families, the second round of auditions for Peoria High Preparatory School for the Arts will be held on February 2nd through February 6th. Auditions will be held across all of the PSA disciplines, including band, choir, dance, drama, orchestra, and visual arts. Please talk with your school counselor for more information or to fill out the audition form. Thank you. Moving on to awards and recognitions. We have the Remarkable Spirit Award, Dr. Nicole Wood.
Good evening, President Shaw. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Good evening, President Shaw, Superintendent, Dr. Karat, members of the board. It is with great pleasure that I get to present to you tonight our remarkable spirit winner. Recently, I had the pleasure of visiting the open campus classrooms at Harrison, and I was so impressed, I have to say, with the way this school has jumped in. They brought several groups of students back in a safe and distanced manner who can benefit from being in a school setting every day. And currently, we have 65 students that have been invited in for additional support at Harrison. So we went into one classroom, and I had the pleasure of meeting an extraordinary staff member. Mrs. Daniels shared with me about how this incredible teacher assistant continually goes above and beyond the call of duty. When she heard there was an opportunity for some students to be in person and Mrs. Daniels needed staff to come into the building to serve, she jumped at the opportunity. I would like for our principal, Mrs. Daniels, to introduce you to our remarkable spirit winner and tell you more about her.
Good evening, everyone. It is such an honor to give recognition and honor to Mrs. Jordan. She has been with our district for 22 years, and since I am her supervisor, I get to see her time off. And she currently still has 220 days where she can take off as sick time. Since I've been at Harrison, she has never missed a day except for once for bereavement, and I had to convince her to take that time off. She is a dedicated, passionate educator, and an educator, as we learned through our VIBE training that we received, is more than just someone that comes to work. It's someone that has the passion and will like to do the work, and it's instilled in them. Every day when you come into Harrison, she is one of the first ones there. Even though her contractual hours are only 8:30 to 3:30, she's there at 7:30 and does not leave until the job is done. And with us having our on-campus site, she's there until 4 o'clock some nights, preparing for our students the next day. I just wanted to like to say that I love her because she is, I'm reading that, learning is a gift. It is a true gift to have her at Harrison and in our district because she loves our students. And through her mask, you can see her smile. Through her mask, you can see her heart. And just through her interactions, you know that our students are being cared for and loved and given the best education at Harrison Community Learning Center. And it's ironic, when I told her about this, I was like, I just need you to go somewhere with me. She did not ask where we were going. She just was like, okay, I'll be there. She got in the car with me at 6 o'clock when I picked her up. Still did not ask, where are we going and why? She rode with us, and when she walked in the building, she did not say, why are you having me sit down? She sat down because she has a heart, a servant heart, and she trusts the leadership and the vision that we have for our students at Harrison. As we say, we are the pride of the South Side. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mrs. Bernita Jordan.
Thank you. It's always been my passion when I went to ICC and I took on another field, but then I changed that to early childhood, and it has been my passion to see kids to succeed and achieve. And I know there's possibility in every child that I have come in contact with. And I appreciate the fact that I have been in the district as long as I have, and I appreciate the staff that I have worked with. I have some very educated staff, teams, members, and my administration. I love them because of their passion they have to see the kids grow and getting their education. In the community in which I serve, I thank them. I can communicate with their parents, and they know that I'm really true about what I say to help their child and the work that I do with them. I just appreciate the fact that Mrs. Daniel took this time to recognize me. I thank you for that. It is my passion, and it's my joy to see kids grow in their learning. I got grandkids of my own, and I watch them, and I ask them what they have learned every time I see them. And I appreciate the fact that I'm in the educational department of helping kids learn and achieve. And I thank you. Again, I thank you guys. I thank you.
Yeah, President Shaw, she has me crying. And I usually don't cry. Oh, let her recognize her family too.
So this is, and we give honor to her husband who just recently retired from the Peoria Police Department, Mr. Jordan. And also her daughters and her son and her granddaughter. Thank you guys for last minute coming to support your mom. It's greatly appreciated.
Congratulations, Mrs. Jordan, and thank you, Dr. Wood.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have district presentations. We have the Math Curriculum Committee, grades 5 through 8 update. Tracy Denath.
Sorry, I'm just letting the cheering go on. Hello, everyone. Thank you, President Shaw, board members, and Dr. Karat for inviting me to present today. My name is Tracy Doneth, and I am just recently joining the Peoria Public Schools family. I started in July as our math and science coordinator. I'm presenting to you today on our progress report for the work being done in our math curriculum committee. This committee of teacher leaders is reviewing our middle school math curriculum materials to seek out math resources that will support our Peoria Public Schools students in grades 5 through 8. So with all the things that we have going on right now, why are we choosing right now to look at a new math curriculum? Well, a few different things. It coordinates with some of our district initiatives and, for example, looking to support our student progress towards Algebra 1 readiness. Our current program that we use is Eureka Math, also known as Engage New York, and has a 2015 copyright date. And thirdly, some teachers have expressed concerns with meeting students' needs with the current program that we have. Some of them have even presented to the board. Some of their concerns include few differentiation and other supportive resources for students, student activities that are often text-heavy and cause challenges for struggling readers, and a lack of resources, either text or online, for at-home support. So with all of those things in mind, we felt that we needed to proceed. Our progress in this committee to date started back in October. In October, I reached out to our building principals and asked them for their recommendations for teachers who currently teach math in grades 5 through 8 to participate in the math curriculum committee. All those teachers were reached out to and invited to participate in the committee in November, and 21 teachers agreed to participate, which I thought was a very high number of teachers who were willing to take on this extra duty. You could tell that it was important to them. In December, the Committee of Teachers has met twice, and in those meetings, we have spent our time learning more about the curriculum review process, gathering information from them on their points of view, and beginning to review materials. So as we were looking at different curriculums, there were some important considerations that I tried to keep at the forefront. These are things that, as we look at new curriculum materials, need to be our focus. It has to be Common Core standards aligned. They have to have differentiated resources for student support. We need to make sure whatever resource we choose has teacher instructional training embedded within the program to support our teachers in using the new resource. Whatever resource we choose has to have resources for whole and small group instruction because we want to encourage that type of instruction in our district. And finally, we need resources that will help lead us to Algebra 1 readiness. So in the first meeting, I reached out to the teachers and I said, those are my important considerations. What are yours? What are your look-fors? And they gave such a really rich discussion, and they met collaboratively with other teachers at their grade level and came up with this meaningful list of resources. You can tell just from this list that these are teachers who truly care about teaching math and want to make sure their students have many different academic opportunities available to them. Things including scaffolding and modeling. They included differentiated practice, making sure that we have features for our bilingual students, opportunities to do things beyond just answering questions, but supporting our students in project-based learning and having resources for parents at home. I was so happy to see that from their conversation, a lot of their thinking aligned with my thinking. I really feel like we have a great start to our committee. So then I did some research for the different curriculum materials that we would be looking for. And I started my work on Ed Reports. If you're not familiar with Ed Reports, it is an independent non-for-profit organization who is designed by teachers, and those teachers are using their time to review instructional materials and support of adoption processes to make sure that when teachers are looking at new curriculums, they have already done some of the research and can align us in the right direction. The Ed Reports is committed to a by educator for educator instructional materials review process. So it's educators helping educators find great instructional materials. And so I started with that, and I felt that only curriculum materials with high ratings in Ed Reports were going to be considered for review by this committee. They have already done the research, and so here are the materials that were selected. We are looking currently at Carnegie Learning, Reveal Math, EdGEMS Math, Illustrative Mathematics, Into Math, Everyday Mathematics, and Envision Mathematics. And those are all the names of different programs from different publishing companies. Those materials that I just shared with you are available at a variety of grade levels. Some of them are available for grades 5 all the way through Algebra 1. Some of them are available for selections within that. Some of them are just 6, 7, 8. Some of them are 5, 6, 7, 8. And so part of our committee's work is going to be to see what aligns with our needs as a district and which resources that we have available to us to assume that. So finally, looking ahead, where are we going? In January, our committee is going to continue the work. We're going to be reviewing the math curriculum, print, and online materials from those companies that I just shared with you. And we're going to be narrowing that large group of companies down to 2 or 3 where we want to learn more. In February and March, our committee is going to hear from those representatives, and they're going to pilot the materials. So they will get an opportunity to use them in their teaching and reflect on those experiences. We will also be designing and implementing a parent survey to collect input from our families as to what support they need to help support their children at home in math. In April and May, our committee is going to review the results of the parent survey and share our perspectives from the pilot experiences so that we can make a recommendation to you, the board, for our math curriculum adoption approval for the 2021-2022 school year implementation. So that's what we have done so far. It's a lot of work, but I'm really excited about it. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Donath. Sorry.
Donath, yes.
Questions from board members? Dr. Rankin.
Yep. I love that you used Ed Reports. It's for board members who may not know about Ed Reports, it is structured. It's a very efficacious and very in-depth process that goes into the Ed Reports process. So I'm glad that that is one of the resources that you used. I also love that you are using or thinking about 5 to 8 math. Is down the road thinking about elementary math also? Is that going to be added on eventually?
Eventually, it's going to be a multi-tiered process.
Okay.
We started with grades 5 through 8 for those considerations I had on one of the beginning slides.
Right.
And we are working at Algebra 1 readiness, so middle school math would be the place to start to continue that.
And so-
But it's coming.
Right, so I guess my question is, when the middle school group is looking at this, are they also considering down the road, tier 2, tier 3, or whatever, how that might gel with an elementary curriculum, or are they gonna be completely separate?
I would like our K-4 teachers to have the same amount of input as our middle school teachers on this type of process. So when we go down that path and we are starting to look at our K-4 resources, I would convene a committee just like this and give them just as much input. Of course, I would be very clear with them and say, these are the resources that our 5th through 8th grade teachers selected. Hint, 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 let's pay extra attention here. But I want to be true to the needs of that particular set of grades, because what they find they need in grades K through 4 might be completely different. Actually, it should be completely different from what our grades 5th through 8th grade teachers need. So I want to be respectful of that different need at the different grades. And I would let them, as part of their committee work, decide if the resource 5th through 8th grade chose would be one that also suits their needs.
Okay, and then in April, whenever you had put up here, recommendation to the board in April and May, I would put a request to see how all of the other things that that the school district is paying for, that we have approved, how they fit in. So all of the other, IXL I know is one, but just all of the other things that are being paid for right now within the district, just seeing how that all fits together would be nice from the board perspective to see kind of where the money is being used and how it's all supporting each other.
Certainly.
Thank you.
We have a public hearing at 7 p.m. that has to start at 7. So we have time for a brief question. Otherwise, board members should hold their questions until after the public hearing, if you can, if there are questions. Mr. Walden?
Just one quick question. Could you go back a slide that shows the different companies that you're reviewing?
This particular slide,
That
or the
one,
one
right.
previous? Yes. These were all rated highly on Ed Reports.
And Ed Reports has 3 different levels, and so like they can pass level 1, and then they move on to level 2, and if they pass level 2, then they move on to, so there's like a very structured process to Ed Reports that they have, like, I'm assuming these are all at kind of that highest level. the
Oh,
green,
yes.
Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are right at 7 p.m. We got about 30 seconds. I'm going to bring Mr. Willis for the public hearing on the tax levy.
Public get to speak to this?
Yes.
Yes. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would simply take this time to open the floor for a public hearing on our tax levy. And at this time, anyone wishing to speak on that could come to the podium and make their comments made.
Number of things under the tax levy. First of all, item 6 on your agenda tonight is year-round or balanced calendar. 2 years ago, at least 2 years ago, the district put together a committee. I was on that committee. It met twice. The last time was 2 years ago in February. We presented at that particular meeting, and the board was to get 42 pages of negative comments about year-round calendar and the fact that it's been used across the country repeatedly by school districts across the country and been rejected after having been used. I think it's a bad idea. I think what you should be looking at under the budget here is adding some money to go to summer school. These kids are dying in this city from lack of achievement. I talked, and I'm going to talk about assessment under my next 5 minutes, but at the same time, the state says you're going to be basically socially promoting 75% of your kids. Socially promoting. We tried this at Roosevelt. We tried putting kids into high school from 7th grade, skipping 8th grade. Those students, and I tracked them because I was president of the union at the time, 4 of them never received more than a failing grade the whole time they were in high school because they were totally ill-prepared in grade school. You just had a math person here. You know, Manual 2 years ago was 4% college ready. Central was 13% college ready. Quest was 6% college ready. That means 94% of their students went to ICC and had to retake refresher classes at their own expense to even get caught up to Peoria Promise. Peoria Promise does not pay for those classes anymore. Peoria Promise only pays if you collect certain amounts of credits with a C average. That's the way you get paid. You have a card here, and I'm continuing to talk about the budget. Your card suggests that if a person speaks here, that if you have a question, you can call the participant if they agree to that. The only person I've ever talked to from this card has been Ms. Carrot or Dr. Carrot a couple of times. I've never heard from a board member on anything. I have presented things such as you can make money for the endowment by reading this book. President Shaw, I believe, is the only one that indicated that he had read this book. It was well on his way to finishing that book. That money will go to the foundation and in turn will go to Woodruff for their pantry at Woodruff. I assume the rest of you haven't read it or you're too basically, I guess, lazy to get a hold of me and let me know that you've read it. That's the only thing I can determine. Also, the letter that you received from me, and I copied you again tonight, if you look at this letter, which is before you, is dated the 28th of September. I said a committee of about a half a dozen people comprised this letter and wanted to know if you were going to put this on the agenda for the upcoming election in the spring. Not one person responded to this letter since September 28th, and in your last meeting you said you're going to go ahead and rename schools. My question, one of the questions, again under finance, is how much did you save by renaming Woodrow Wilson School Maud Sanders School? Have you done the research? I've talked to people that can't believe Maud Sanders was even possibly named a school. And I could give you reasons for that, but you know the same reasons I do. So you're going to name 6 more schools, not the ones without names, but ones like Washington and Thomas Jefferson, our founding fathers. And again, I do not understand. I've not seen the cost of renaming Woodrow Wilson. Are we going to multiply that times 6? Do we have student achievement increases at Maud Sanders School because of the name change, or is it just a name change for the hell of it? I don't understand it. You know, and you people sit around, you got better things to do. Students are dying on the vine here. Also, as far as money is concerned, we still have the same attorneys from the suburbs. We're still not recirculating that money in Peoria. Peoria is dying. My taxes and fees, I got a note today, my fees went up for the police pension from $30 to $40. My taxes on the runoff water went from $35 last year a quarter to $51 a quarter, and they're going to go up again this year. You people act like money grows on trees. The city is insane. The state is insane. You know, you're going to wind up wanting more money, and yet you're going to spend money to close 6 schools, or not close 6 schools, but rename 6 schools when you don't even know if it improves achievement, you know, or decreases achievement. You have no clue. There's been nothing presented by your academic people here. You know, I listened to Ms. Wood, tell how bad our grade schools were 2 years ago when she was at Quest. You know, how bad the students were being taught, if you will. Our students this year are in crisis. I was there, people. 75% of our students are getting hosed, if you will, as far as this is concerned. I think it's very important that you consider busing again. I want to know, have you saved money this year by not busing kids? Have you lost money? The state pays 75%, so surely you've saved some money, and I guess we'll hear that in the budget report tonight. Surely that is on the agenda. A couple of other things that are important as far as finance is concerned is, again, Quest. You know, they were failing, and you gave them $1.2 million this year and $1.2 million more next year for a total of $6.2 million. What a crazy decision that was, as you sit here and look back. You know, you got to pull it together. This is more year-round school, forget it. Go to summer school to catch these kids up this summer.
Other comments on the tax levy? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. So we cut board questions short on the math curriculum. Were there any other questions for Mrs. Donath?
Mr. Shaw,
Yes, Mrs. Ross?
I had a question. I really wanted to know what was the makeup of the committee that's looking at, and I may have missed this, it may have already been said, but it's hard to hear. What was the makeup of the committee as it relates to equity, and were there any parents or who made up the committee that's looking at this particular math, and what were we using before that they feel is not good enough? That's two questions in one. And I also have one more after that.
Okay, I'll do my best to answer them for you. So we were using Eureka Math, which is otherwise known as Engage New York, previously, and it's been used by the district for many years. I can't give you an exact number because I just recently came to the district in July, but I know it's been quite a few years. As far as the makeup of the committee, right now the makeup of the committee includes teachers from grades 5 through 8. We have 3 teachers that represent 5th grade, and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have 6 teachers each. They represent teachers from many different, a variety of schools within the district, including some of our high needs. We have some teachers who represent Washington Gifted. We have teachers who represent our bilingual program. We have teachers who represent those schools where they teach Algebra 1 at the middle school level. So I feel like we have a wide variety of teachers on our committee so that we can get a lot of perspectives. We do not currently have parents on our committee because we're doing the initial work up front to narrow the work down to a few curriculum resources. Right now we have quite a few that we're looking at. Once we narrow the field, part of the presentation I shared earlier did show that we have a parent survey component that's coming so that we can see what are some resources that parents are interested in and that would help them support their child learning math at home. And then we will consider those viewpoints as a committee when we're making our final selections.
Okay, that answers part of it. Now, how many representatives from the schools on the south side of Peoria and first and second district are represented on that committee? Teachers, how many teachers and representatives from those schools?
I do. Actually, I have the paper. I left it at my seat, so just one moment.
I know we've had the Eureka Math about 5 years, and this is the first time I've heard that that it wasn't working.
We've had teachers. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize.
Yeah, when I came on board, Mrs. Ross, the previous administration had selected, and staff had selected Eureka Math. So I would say,
But it's been 5 years. I remember when we brought it up.
yeah, so I came in 2015, so it was there probably three years or more before I came on board.
All right,
Okay.
thank you for your patience while I got my information. So I have on our committee 3 teachers that represent Von Steuben. I have 2 teachers that represent Calvin Coolidge. I have 3 teachers that represent Trewin. I have 1 teacher from Lindbergh, 2 teachers from Washington, 2 teachers from Lincoln. I have a teacher from Harrison, 2 teachers from Sterling, 2 teachers from Glen Oak, 2 teachers from Rolling Acres, and 1 teacher from Roosevelt.
Okay, so right now it's just teachers that are on this committee, right?
That is correct. Well, and myself.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Thank you. Okay, we have a presentation on the balanced calendar, and that is Dr. Karat and Dr. Wilson.
President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, Board, all of our district staff who are listening, our students, our families, and partners and friends. I would like to provide the introduction to the balance calendar presentation that will be given by our Peoria Public Schools Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Wilson. We all know that we are all experiencing education in a pandemic right now, and some individuals are experiencing more challenges than others. And so the question for us as a district is, where do we go from here? So we are looking ahead and exploring as a district, extending in-school time regarding the academic progress of our students, which has been impacted by the pandemic. There is a sense of urgency around confronting this global pandemic. And as a district, it is our responsibility to explore new ways to develop intentional supports for our students. And there are lots of ideas, as you heard from Mr. Knapp. You heard summer school along with. There are other ideas. It could be also, could it be a longer day? Could it be a longer year? Could it be year-round school? Or even a longer week? The important point is we have to create for Peoria Public Schools children a comprehensive recovery and rebuilding approach that takes the long view. An approach that is robust and multifaceted, connecting academics, social emotional interventions, and much more. So the Balance Committee work, as you heard, is true, started in 2017, 2018, that school year. I remember when I came back in 2015, then we started off with the campaign for the sales tax. We went out to the public and essentially gave them a rationale for why they should support it, and a big one that really got their attention and got them excited around supporting Peoria Public Schools with the sales tax to renovate the other half of the building was the talk around year-round school that I recall. And at the time, what happened was it was placed on hold because half of our buildings were really not ready to implement the calendar. So, I mean, to actually go out and do the work, because we weren't ready, even if we wanted to at that time. So I've asked the committee to revisit the feasibility of modifying our current traditional balanced calendar with the understanding that the 2020-2021 plans would be modified would be a modified year for transition if everything goes. So the committee's process will also feature lots of listening and learning from various stakeholders. And the committee's work will be very comprehensive and very inclusive. So with that introduction, I would like to present to you Dr. Wilson to give you an update of the idea. Thank you, Dr. Wilson, and thank you, Board.
Thank you, Dr. Karat, President Shaw, and board members. I would like to share with you the outline of the district committee. As Dr. Karat alluded to, she presented a superintendent's charge, and that charge is that the Balanced Calendar Committee will revisit the feasibility of providing a balanced calendar schedule starting with the 2021-22 school year to address COVID-19 learning loss and to accelerate learning. So you might ask, what does that mean? What is a balanced calendar? So these are two pictures of a graph that kind of shows a visual of what we currently have and a modified option. The one on the left is a traditional school year. This is similar to what we have now. A longer summer vacation. This particular model says 60 days. And then we have 70 days of work prior to Thanksgiving break, a day of, or 3 days of rest, and then anywhere from around 15 days after that. Typically, a winter holiday is around 10 days, and then typically we will have 55 work days, and then we might have a spring break that is 1 week, and then we would have 40 days after. So that's just an example. That's not an actual pulled from our exact numbers, but it gives you some kind of an understanding of when I say traditional, that's what I'm talking about. Then on the right-hand side is a modified, and this is really representing an example of a calendar which is balanced. And the reason it's called balanced is there is more balance between the days that the students learn and the breaks in between, and the summer break is smaller. So for this example, you'll notice that it's 45 days of learning, then we have 15 days off, then we have 30 days of learning because we have that Thanksgiving break in there, and then we have 3 days off and then 15 days of learning. And then after that, the winter break is 15 days, again cycling to 45 days, and then 15 days off, leaving 45 days to learn. So it's much more balanced. Excuse me. As a result of that, you'll also notice that the summer break is shorter. So there's still a longer summer break than some of the other interim breaks. And this particular calendar, it's 30 days. So there's other ways to move from traditional towards a balanced calendar and modify it. This is an example of one that shows really a balance. The idea is during those 15 days off, school districts can do lots of things. They can just have 15 days of rest. But our intent is to have 15 days, or at least a large portion of those days, to have and provide intense academic interventions for our students for SEL and academic that is ongoing throughout the year, as opposed to focused during one time of the year, which is after the learning takes place in the summer. Thank you, Michelle. So as Dr. Crud alluded to, we had a phase 1 work in 2017-18. The work began with the desire by some stakeholders to explore a more balanced option to really reduce the number of days in the summer. At that time, whoops, can you go back just a smidge? I think Michelle Seibel's telling me to talk faster. So superintendent's charge at that time was that it looked a little bit different. It will involve interested stakeholders in exploring possibilities, including the investigation of potential improvements and impacts that a balanced calendar, non-traditional school calendar may offer for the students of Peoria Public Schools. So it was much more exploratory in nature. It's not something that we looked at for the whole district. It was something that Knoxville and Valeska had. So what did we do during 17-18? We had an initial committee that was set out to investigate. The committee members are listed. Several of them have left us. They have retired, so we have 3 left. Tom Bloomer is left, Annette Coleman, and Laura Rogers. The others have retired. So after that, we looked at various stakeholder groups that met in the fall of 2017. And those groups were listed, there were 5 of them. And so we broke them out into athletics, extracurricular. We had staffing, collective bargaining and HR, buildings and grounds, community activities, family life, and then students' academic life and achievement. So those particular groups met in smaller groups for the fall of 2017. We also compiled that impact group information, and we looked for common themes. What did we find that all the groups were saying? We had outliers, but we did find some common themes of things that we needed to consider. We discovered pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, barriers, but the overall conclusion at the end of this was that our infrastructure was not compatible. So we did have some dates you can see. We also had a parent and staff survey that we conducted. We had an FAQ that was posted on the website, and we also had community meetings, parent and principal meetings. We were also invited to several buildings for the PTOs, individual PTO meetings that we shared information. So it was shared in a variety of ways. However, due to our infrastructure not being ready for this concept, it was really determined that a balanced calendar option should be revisited with a start date that aligned with all school buildings having air conditioning. Thinking about, like Roosevelt is an example, that was not air conditioned at the time, and that building with the 3 stories, it really gets hot. And so it was very difficult for people to even consider looking at this with 6 or 7 of our buildings not having air conditioning. Well, now we find ourselves almost at the end of the renovations to buildings. All of them will be complete this summer by August 4th, 2021. All of our buildings will be fully air conditioned. Additionally, we find ourselves looking for a way to intensely support our students' social, emotional, and academics needs that have been impacted by the pandemic. So once again, Dr. Crott, our superintendent, shared a second charge. Looks a little bit different. The Balanced Calendar Committee will revisit the feasibility of providing a balanced calendar schedule starting with the 2021-22 school year to address COVID-19 learning loss and accelerate learning. The reality is that due to our last 2 buildings receiving their HVAC system, we will not be able to start until August 5th. That is the very earliest that we can start. So just by the nature of the barrier of that, it does not allow us to even consider a fully balanced option for the 21-22 school year. However, we wanted to consider how can we look at this plan long term. So we have a phase 2 committee plan. And this is actually this is a part of the plan is presenting to you right now. So first of all, we had a core team that was formed from the original team, and then we added 4 new members. The core team has developed a plan to seek stakeholder input for implementation through various methods, and I'll describe those shortly. The impact groups, they'll be formed from a variety of stakeholders. There'll be certified staff, non-certified staff, board members, community members, parents, students, building and district administration. and we want them to develop the pros, the cons, and the considerations for balanced calendar topics. The subgroups look similar. We broke them down just a little bit differently, but we have athletics extracurricular, transportation, building and grounds, community activities, family life, childcare, students, academic life and achievement. We have staffing, and we also are going to revisit scheduling. So we are going to gather feedback from the impact groups, and we will compile them into a summary. Then we will develop and post a frequently asked question on the website that will be pulled from feedback from the impact groups and also community members. We'll post a voiceover PowerPoint on the website. We want to create and administer balanced calendar survey to families and staff. We want to schedule and present information at town hall meetings similar to what we did for the return to school plan, the PTO district committee, and also provide information to community groups, anyone that we are able to get in front of. We would like to update the board members monthly at Board of Education meetings, so you have an ongoing information on where we are at in the process. Provide a recommendation to Dr. Karat, and then request for approval from the Board of Education. So the timeline, how will we get all of this accomplished? So we have already had 2 core team planning meetings, and we will soon, as the result after this evening, we will add a next layer, which is going to be called our impact committee, which is really broadening the core team to board members, PFT leadership, community members, and parents. And then we also have subcommittees that we will have for each one of those topics. So tonight we are presenting the information and the timeline. January, we would like the impact groups to meet. We'll also look at forming a FAQ and an informational voiceover PowerPoint on the website, and also sharing information at the PTO council meeting. January 25th, we would like to just give you an update. What is our progress so far? It may be a short progress report, but nonetheless, we want to give you any information so you have updated information. Then in February, the impact groups will continue to meet, and we also plan to allow an online parent staff survey at that time and make that available. And then once again, February 22nd, we would like to again share the progress with you. Where are we at? What are our findings so far? In March, we're hopeful to host town hall meetings and community groups, share with anyone that wants to ask questions or hear information. And then March 22nd, would like to also share progress update to the Board of Education with the goal that the April meeting, the Board of Education would vote on the proposal. So that is really our outline of the work that needs to be done. We do have a list. We have been very intentional and strategic about the people that are on the subcommittee members. We want to make sure that we have a wide variety of voices. And so we have right now over 55 people that will be invited to attend. And if there's additional folks that would like to join us, we certainly would welcome them. But as I said before, it's compiled of a variety of stakeholders from community members, board members, students, parents, resource officers, teachers, non-certified, athletic directors, HR, you name it. We've tried to make sure that there is at least a representative from each area, and sometimes multiple ones. So that is the timeline, and thank you for allowing me the time to participate. Do you have any questions?
One question, the point of contact, is that prominent on the website if people want to get involved in the town halls and committee work?
Right, we sure can. That's a great suggestion. We haven't really posted anything much on the website yet. We wanted to present this information to you first before we move to the next step. But absolutely, we can certainly do that. for
Tomorrow, we
sure.
can get that up and,
Thank you. Questions from board members?
Mr. Shaw,
Yes, Mrs. Ross?
I just wanted to know what's our relationship with the unions as it relates to this proposal?
we're working with them as we explore the feasibility. They have provided, I believe, 6 to 8 names. I've asked for representation, so they're moving along the journey with us. We've gotten some representation, I believe, is it 6 names or 8 names?
8 names?
Eight names from them as we, again, explore the feasibility.
In
Thank you.
addition
Right.
to the
I
3
meant was,
ahead.
would it include bargaining, rebargaining kind of activity?
In addition to, what did you say, Dr. Wilson?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Ross, were you?
No, you said in addition to the teachers.
Oh, I was just going to say in addition to the 3 PFT leaders as well. So we're also looking at inviting leadership of the non-certified staff unions as well.
Other questions from board members? Mr. Walton?
So at this time, you haven't invited people, but you're just in the process? Am I clear? Is that where you're at?
Exactly. We've not sent out any invitations or anything because we wanted to share with you first.
Okay.
We do have every board member serving on a committee. It's sketched in. So as Dr. Wilson said, every board member will be part of this process as well.
Other questions from board members? Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you.
I did have one before you left, but it was more of a comment than, or a statement. I think there were people that were concerned. We've gotten, a number of us board members have gotten emails because the way it was phrased, and it still looks like it's going for the next academic year. I feel a lot more comfortable that we're going to get feedback and input in there because it appeared, some people thought that we were going to vote tonight on this
Oh,
for that time.
okay,
And
yeah.
you can understand there were a lot of people who were concerned about that. So I'm glad we're going through it in a phased-in way and that we're going to get input from parents and teachers on this before we go ahead.
It's a big decision and it changes, the lives of several, so we want to make sure that we don't miss any points.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Dr. Rankin?
Sorry, I just thought of a question, and you might have said this. For the people who are included in the 55 that you said, are community organizations going to be involved, such as camps that may usually do things, or the YMCA, like what, those types of community organizations that might be able to help as we phase this in?
Yes,
Okay.
for sure.
And the Parks and Rec, library, and a lot of community agencies that also support our students during the summer as well.
Okay. Before we go into our normal audience presentations, we have a presentation from Mr. McKenzie on the audit.
All right, good evening, President Shaw, Dr. Crott, board members. Tonight we have our annual opportunity for our auditors to come in front of you and discuss the audit that is required of us to do, and we do every year. I left at your places before the meeting 2 big books that I don't expect any of you to actually read, but rest assured, I read it all, and Mick kind of skimmed it a little bit, so he probably read it more than that. But anyway, you have 2 reports in front of you. You have a clear covered one, which is the annual financial report that the state requires us to do. And then you have what they call a comprehensive annual financial report, both of which I spend a huge amount of my life producing, so I get really excited about it. But I understand that a lot of these books are really designed for outsiders, the bond people that buy our bonds, things like that, the state. finance department spends a huge amount of time getting these ready and working with the auditors every year. And my major job of the year is closing the books in June, in July and August, and then working with the auditors to do the audit every year, which always sounds imposing, and at an organization of this size, it really is very large because of all our federal funds and stuff we have to do. So tonight we have two auditors with us who are going to give a short presentation. Adam Pulley is a principal at Clifton Larson Allen. We used to call those partners back in the day. Now they call themselves principals because of the way their organization is set up. So Adam does all the formal reviews and is ultimately in charge of the audit. And then we also have Derek Orendorf here to the side, and he is the manager in charge of the audit. And just an example of how involved this is, he starts the audit in August and really spends a couple months here in this building working on doing testing and all those kind of things, and then working with me when we write all write all this stuff and get it all into the book. So Derek spends a huge amount of time here, probably a good 3 months of his life every year working on this audit. So that being said, I'll just turn it over to Adam, and this is the board's opportunity to hear about the audit, but then actually ask the auditors any questions about the process and everything. So, oh, the other thing I forgot to say, these reports, I have a couple hard copies, but most people want them as PDFs. So the PDFs are on the financial page of our website. You know, so we have multiple years of these reports sitting out on the finance page of our website. So anyway, so Adam will take it from here.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. Good evening, everybody. Adam Pulley, principal in charge of the audit for June 30th, 2020. If we could move along to the next slide, thank you. I'll be very brief in my comments this evening. That was a good introduction there. The long and the short of it, as far as our audit opinion on the district's financial statements, we did issue a clean or an unmodified audit opinion. This is the best opinion we can give. This is the opinion that you want. One thing of note within the large CAFR, or Comprehensive Annual Financial Report document, is that there is something new this year, which is that second bullet there. Last year, after the FY19 audit, or the financial statements, the district submitted to ASBO, which is the Association of School Business Officials, their financial report, and to submit it to see if they could achieve or get their certificate of excellence for that year. The district did get that, and so that has been inserted within the FY20's audit report. Certainly, I know how much work goes into that, so the district finance department should certainly be commended for that. The other thing that I'd like to note on this slide, the third bullet, I always recommend every year, if you want a good synopsis and you're not going to read the entire document there, the management's discussion analysis that starts on page 4, maybe roughly, I don't know the number of pages, but it's a lot more palatable, easier to digest the information during 2020. So I highly recommend that. The next really 3 slides, I'm going to skip over in the interest of time. It's really more for reference anyways, looking at FY19 comparing to FY20 revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for various funds. So on this slide here, as far as the findings that we came across, before noting the one finding there at the top, to provide a little context around that, I'm actually going to skip down to that bottom paragraph. Some of you may or may not be aware or recall from years past and presentations past, the district has had a material weakness finding since 2006 regarding the district's reliance on us as the external auditor to help put together the financial statements in their entirety. The reason why I started in 2006, that's basically when auditing standards called for this finding to be put into place because we cannot be considered part of the district's internal control structure. This is a common finding that I come across, especially of entities, organizations that are as complicated as the district, have complex accounting transactions. Now, that said, a handful of years ago, the district discussed with us, came to us and said, we have an interest in improving and seeing this finding go away. And over the past few years, the district has been working with us, continually improving every single year, getting closer and closer to that spot. And honestly, as of for 2020, when we were working with the district, we felt that they had the capability of putting together the entire financial statements on their own, and did not need to place so much reliance on us that has been in the past. As a result, that finding that has been in place for, almost 15 years was removed in this year, which is honestly, that's truly an accomplishment, and I give a lot of praise to the finance department for that. Now, that said, we did come across, if we can go back real quick, we did have one finding that we came across. This is not of a material weakness in nature, so the magnitude is less. There were a couple audit adjustments that we did propose in the general fund and have been reflected within the financial statements. These were not a result of the district not having the capability or having reliance on us. Really, they were oversights. So it is certainly possible that going forward, the district would have the capability of having no findings in the future. That said, next slide. One other item that we did issue during the year is a letter to governance. This is our opportunity as the auditors to express to the board if there were any significant disagreements, any issues that came across during the audit besides findings. Honestly, for the most part, it's boilerplate language, especially in a year like this, because there were no disagreements, there were no issues that came across, so there was nothing of significance to report within this letter. And in fact, I really have to take the time to thank Mick and Mike and Carla and everybody else that touched the audit this year. As you might imagine, the approach going into the audit, we knew was going to look much different. And the finance department proved that they could be flexible, they were versatile, and they really worked with us in a more remote environment, getting everything that we needed in a timely fashion so that we could still stay and meet target deadlines that we had set up from the onset of the audit. So I thank everybody very much for their help and efforts with that. Otherwise, that's really all I had to present this evening. Certainly open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pulley. First, I would like to commend the Finance Department on their award, on the Certificate of Excellence, and on improving their processes to the point where they can create the report independently. So I'd like to acknowledge that department. Questions for Mr. Pulley?
Mr. Shaw,
Yes, Mrs. Ross?
I have a question for the auditors. Is it a typical finding with other organizations or with all the organizations that they must do a portion of the audit and that the auditors are not to do an unbiased audit? In other words, other companies have to do the majority of the work. Is this a typical finding in other organizations?
If I may clarify, the finding that we issued this year or the finding that had been in years past that has been removed this year?
Well, you mentioned in years past, and I've been here for a while, the finding that the auditors are not to do most of the unbiased auditing. Is that typical?
Yes. Short answer is yes. As far as school districts are concerned, certainly downstate school districts, there are a lot of districts that report on what's known as a cash basis. This is a simplified basis of accounting, whereas the district is a lot more complex and on a much more difficult level of accounting, meeting accounting standards, that organizations like the district and other municipalities that I work with, this is a very common finding.
It is common.
Yes.
Because I would, just, kind of looking at common sense, we would want an outside auditor to do an unbiased audit. And if we were able to do it ourselves, it seems, I don't know if that's unbiased or not.
If I may
Thank you.
clarify, the district is able to put the financial statements together on their own, but we still are required to come in as that unbiased auditor, as the independent auditor, to look over, perform our test work, and give an opinion on whether the financials that the district put together are materially correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Mr. Walden?
Could you clarify, you've got a letter here that deals with the activity fund cash disbursements. Can you explain what you think that we should be doing differently that we're not doing now?
Yes, so broad strokes, we did come across, this was not considered a finding, but it was an other item that we came across that we wanted to make sort of a recommendation for. It appeared during some of our testing with the activity funds that the process for issuing checks, it was not always following policy. We did not find that there was any improprieties or discrepancies in those items, but nevertheless, the methodology, I believe, of how those checks were issued weren't really following policy. So we made a recommendation. We wanted to point that out to the district to review those processes and procedures. Do you want to add to that?
And activity funds are always an issue. We always have to kind of circle back and look at them again because people change and things. Several years ago, we centralized all the activity fund accounting for all the elementary schools. So we do those here in this building. We issue all the checks. We do all the record keeping here. And then the high schools have their own treasurers who do their own activity funds. And so this finding, or it's not even a finding, but it's a recommendation from the auditors. They go out to all the high schools and they do some testing at the individual high schools. And they just found some things that were just a little not as tight, as controlled as we like them to be. And so Mick and I have talked about it. We haven't set up meetings. We'll do it after the first of the year when everybody comes back. In January, we'll have meetings with the individual treasurers and athletic directors and principals to discuss the internal controls and make sure that they, just tighten up the controls. So, and this control that was kind of, we could go into the details. I'm not going to do it in this forum, but there was no improprieties found or anything. It's just things have gotten a little loose, and so one of the accountant's responsibility is to set up a system of internal controls. That's what he said. He's not they come in to evaluate internal controls. We are responsible for our internal controls, and that's one of the things that I do periodically is, and it's been a couple of years, since we've done that. So we're just going to, Mick and I are going to meet with the various constituencies out in the high schools and try to tighten things up a little bit. So, and the other thing, the finding that we found, there were a couple errors that were large dollar amounts. One of them was something that happened because people were out so much in the summer and it didn't get fixed before June 30th. And so Mick and I are also going to internally here in this building talk to our staff and make sure some of these things that happened. They were two minor. There were two mistakes that were made, but they just happened to amount to a large dollar amount, and that's why they become what's the word? Material or significant? A significant issue. It's a significant deficiency. And so those are two things that we'll fix this year, and we'll discuss within our own procedures to make sure you have dual controls and you have multiple people looking at things and everything get booked by June 30th, which is one thing that didn't happen last year. So with all the people being out and everything with the current weird situation we're in.
Other questions on the audit? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Thank you, Mr. Pulley.
Thank you.
Okay, we have now come to the point of audience presentations. Audience presentations are limited to 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep the comments respectful and constructive. Our first speaker is Mr. Knapp.
Continuing, over the last couple months, I've been trying to get a hold of people at the City Hall in regards to the tearing down of Harrison School and McKinley School. They're out to lunch. Oh, excuse me. I mean, they're home working, but you can't get a hold of them. I've had to call councilmen. I called a councilman today, said they'd get back to me today. They didn't get back to me today. The city is dysfunctional. I tried to get a hold of the people at ISBE for assessment, and it took me a month to get to them. And I had to go through 6 different people to get a person, and then I talked to that person for 55 minutes on assessment. I talked to another person 20 minutes. I talked to an attorney finally. The common thread is, we're sorry that you can't get a hold of us, we're working at home. Well, that makes no sense. So you can't even get somebody on the phone to leave a message. And that's, I'll say one thing for the district is not that way. The district is responsive. I've never had that happen with the school district. The city is pathetic, as is the state. I'd like to say also, concerning this year-round school situation, you know, I come here, Sharon Cruz came here for years. We saw summer school. None of you have even seen summer school. Maybe Miss Ross, I don't know. But the rest of you haven't even seen summer school in action. Dan Walther may have. The rest of you don't even know what it is. We need year-round school. These kids are dying of starvation. Their parents will send them to 2 months of summer school, June and July. Our leaders here, our people we're paying, $150,000 or more a year to give you advice, can't even spit out the word summer school. After my presentation on summer school, they don't even give you an idea of why they can't talk about summer school. I was on the committee with about 50 people who met twice. We met in November, and we met again in February. We were supposed to meet for 2 years on this topic. After the second meeting, 42 pages produced. We told and voted that you should put that on your on your web page so that the public could see the negative input across the country of this type, the Valeska-Hinton model of this type of school. It's not year-round school. Don't dupe the public into thinking this is year-round school. Year-round school is 9 months of school, and then the kids who need remediation go to 2 months of summer school to pass to the next grade. You can't just pass them on. We got in this habit the last 10 years under the Lathan administration, and a little bit before that under the Hinton administration, where we were passing kids who were flat out failing the rest of their career in school. I mean, when you see again, Quest at 6% college ready, Manual at 4% college ready, and Central at 13% college ready 2 years ago, you should be ashamed. I am ashamed for those kids. Those kids are getting cheated. Somebody is either not putting a hammer down on them in class and making them do their work, or they don't have the programs available again in summer school. I told you stories about Mike Robinson from Richwoods, who played 19 years in Pro League in Argentina, who got his degree from Purdue and went on and taught after he took night school to repeat a class, and he took summer school to repeat 3 classes. That's the only way he could get his credit. You can't get credit through credit recovery. And if some of you sit there and act like you have a doctorate degree and think you can get credit from credit recovery, you're playing an illusion game. This is not even possible. It's important that you understand that you can't take 2 meetings when it was supposed to go 2 years, and they disbanded the committee. I was on the committee. There were 8 or 10 principals. They were listed on the overhead. 10 principals on the committee basically said, forget it. We've been down this road. I'm not saying you can't revisit it, but why not put summer school on there as an option? You have these leaders paid huge money, and they can't even spit it out. And I would be ashamed If I were an administrator and could not spit that out and really tell you the kids need 11 months of school, not 180 days, like the Valeska model gives you 180 days on and 180 days off, period. End of sentence.
Our final speaker tonight is Mr. Stacy.
Thank you, Brother President Shaw. To the Board of Education and Peoria Public Schools District 150 community, we, the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, would like to thank you for allowing us the time to address you about an issue that is very important to us. We believe that the proposal to change the names of 6 schools in the district is a great idea, and we fully support the proposal. We stand here not only as members of Alpha Phi Alpha, but also as former students and parents of former/current students in this district. We left Peoria and returned as college graduates to provide a service to our community and support the school district that provided the education and knowledge we needed to succeed at the next level. The names are very important. The name changes are very important at a time that racial equality has been one of the most serious issues we are dealing with today. Black people have suffered and will continue to suffer unless we open our hearts and minds and believe that truly all men are created equal. Black people were left out of several important decision-making issues. It is time we reevaluate some of these issues and allow everyone a seat at the table. The men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated took notice when one of the names that was considered was the late Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian. Dr. Vivian lived and worked here in Peoria, improving the quality of life for Peorians through his work at the Carver Center and Peoria's Interracial Fellowship, where he joined in efforts to end segregation. He was a pivotal figure in the civil rights movement, which changed the course of our nation's history. After being groomed in Peoria with acts such as the lunch counter sit-ins, Dr. Vivian worked in Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s organization, leading protests and developing new organizations centered on civil rights and education. Dr. Vivian is a recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor given to U.S. citizens. We feel as if Dr. Vivian should be considered because of the 2 major movements in America, the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement. Those movements shifted the paradigm of not only the condition of Black Americans, but the country as a whole. The gains from those movements allowed people who were descendants of enslaved Africans to now exercise freedoms the Constitution originally promised to all citizens. Dr. Vivian reminds us of why America can work in spite of its flaws if we sacrifice. To name a building after someone who contributed his life's work to helping ensure not only the rights of voting-age citizens would be an honor. He worked to ensure our youngest marginalized citizens would have access to one of the most important transitional tools for anyone, and that's education, by developing the Upward Bound program. So not only did he fight for civil rights, he also, less notably, fought for education. For those of you that are labeling this move as cancel culture, let us begin by saying that the culture of Black people in this country was canceled as soon as they were brought here. We are only 60 years from not being allowed to eat in certain restaurants, drink from certain drinking fountains, or use certain restrooms. God knows that when schools were being named, we were considered canceled. During these discussions, this is not an attempt to cancel anything. This is an attempt to exercise equity, inclusion, and opportunity in the name of truth. When we consider individuals to honor through the naming of a school building, the goal should be to select people whose lives have been iconic on the local and/or national level. We consider people who our students can learn about and hopefully emulate in many ways. In conclusion, Honoring Dr. Vivian will present an opportunity for students to learn about him, study his contributions, and embrace his legacy. It will encourage parents to have important conversations with those students about Dr. Vivian and his vision for a united society. By honoring the Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian, we honor the principles of truth and inclusion, and in doing so, we honor ourselves. Our history is a shared history, and every shade of it must be known and represented. We can be an example to those who would sow division, that we as parents, educators, administrators, as human beings can come together to do this, not because it is popular, but because it is the right thing to do. And that is what really matters. We thank you for your time and your consideration.
Response to audience presentations, Dr. Karat. I do not have a card, ma'am. Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, it wasn't in my initial stack, ma'am. Okay, Mrs. Wolf.
Thank you very much. My name is, I'm not that tall, sorry. My name is Lauren Wolf. I'm both a parent and a teacher in the district. And there's a couple things that I just want to comment on. I don't think it's the time to look at the balanced calendar right now. I mean, I understand he started the work in 2017, but even buildings won't all have air conditioning until 2021. It might be something we want to put off until maybe we're out of a pandemic situation where we can focus more on student success and what we can do to get students all the services they need, which, speaking of, I'm an Acellus teacher this year. I did choose to go virtual because when our buildings asked, they said we needed someone from every grade level to go virtual. I'm very tech savvy, so I chose to be the one to do so. I know we've been saying that Acellus has a comprehensive intervention program, and it has all these things. You can lower the rigor, you can raise the rigor to challenge students. Honestly, it does not. I've been taking a look at lots of my kids. I've been looking at a lot of the data, all on my own. And my students who are in the what's considered low rigor track, my students who are in the on grade level track, and my students who are getting the higher, what's considered the higher rigor track, they're all being asked the same exact questions. You may have fewer questions or more questions based on your rigor level, but it's the same questions. And let's say I get a 50%, which means I failed. I go through, or I have to redo the questions again. I'm asked the same exact questions. Nothing changes. And so, like, I have students that I tutor, and I can sit and we can do the same questions 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, we have kids who will take something 50 times to try and get a better grade, and they just can't. And the questions are just the same over and over and over again. Nothing changes. It's not giving them an intervention. So wherever the intervention piece in Acellus is that we are being told is there, I don't see where it is. I can't find it. So if you could help me find it, Dr. Wilson, I'd appreciate it, because I did get your email this evening. I don't know where it is. It's not accommodating for the students. Our students with IEPs, I mean, some of their IEPs say that they need to work on phonics. Fourth grade ELA does not have anything to do with phonics. So then our special ed teachers are having to pull from other things, but we're told you're not supposed to be pulling from IXL or from Lexia or this, that, and the other. And what's frustrating is that we're getting different things communicated to us. So we've been asking since August, and I gave you a paper, and it literally, at least twice a week, every week since the beginning of the school year, we have been asking about several different things, and tiers is one of the big ones. And not the week before Thanksgiving, we were told by a Acellus admin, ask your building admin what they're doing for tier 2 and tier 3 students, and that's what you should do. So I said, okay, my building is using IXL and Lexia. Can I use those? Oh, absolutely not. You can't use those. I said, but you just told me I had to do what my building's doing. But if I talk to my building principal, they tell me, well, I'm not your boss, I'm not your admin, you need to talk to the virtual admin. So I don't know who I'm supposed to talk to. I've literally gone to everybody. And we're just confused with, what do you want from us? We're trying so hard, but then you segregate those Acellus students, and their home schools are telling them, you're not a part of our school, you're not a part of the district because you're virtual. And that should not be in the equation at all. We are a part of this district, and we need to treat those children fairly and give them every opportunity we're giving everybody else. You want us to use LightSail to read? Awesome. But then why can't we also use Discovery Ed or Mystery Science or IXL or Lexia or Waterford or anything else in order to help our students? We've had a hard no on giving them anything lower than grade level content. Until today, I was said, oh, you can give them lower level content to practice, but I don't know what that actually means. Does it mean actually give them second grade work to do also? Or does it mean I just pull questions from there if I even can? I don't know that I can, and use those questions when I tutor kids. Because I said I tutor kids and I really need some help in being able to tutor them with fidelity. Oh, we'll get you IXL. The minute I said, because I asked why IXL was taken from Acellus, the minute I said they were Acellus kids, sorry, you can't have that. And that's where I have a big problem, that our students are being treated unfairly purely because their parents had to choose a fully virtual option. So I ask that, give us some guidance and some direction. But this pulling back and forth and trying to say that our students aren't part of the district, we don't like it. And I know my parents have a very hard time with it also. So please let me know who I need to talk to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do, because I'm getting so many different answers, and I'm going to my superiors and asking questions, and they either get pushed to the side or we get told, you're not part of this district, you can't use that. So, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Response to audience presentations, Dr. Karat.
Thank you so much, President Shaw. As usual, I appreciate everyone's presentation, and what I would recommend in terms of our staff member, Dr. Wilson, we have some amazing leaders like Mrs. Donath, who just presented to us, our math coordinator. I would connect her with Mrs. Wolf to provide some additional techniques and strategies as it relates to teaching and reaching the kids. And as far as literacy is concerned, the board not too long ago went through and staff went through an elaborate process adopting and going through the balanced literacy, the balanced literacy curriculum. So, when I hear things about, the components of reading, so just send Lisa over there to provide some support, please. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to informational items. We have the return to school plan update. And for those that are leaving, do be careful driving home, as there will probably be ice. So I just want you to be careful as you head home. Return to school plan update, Dr. Karat.
Yes, it will be very brief. Wow, I hate ice. So I'll be brief. I think actually I sent to you in my weekly update what I sent to our families. And it was just a reminder regarding we are in school remotely through December 18th. That's the last day. And then classes resume on the 5th of January for students, on the 4th for staff. And Valeska and Knoxville, because they're on the balanced calendar, they'll resume on the 12th. But then I also reminded and spoke to our families about, so a winter remote learning plan will continue from January 5th through the 15th. And then the in-person instruction is scheduled to resume on Tuesday, January 15th. And I kind of talked about what high school would look like and earlier, and I'll do a quick little one of our priorities during COVID and during this pandemic is regular communication also. And so I will send out a quick message to our parents and seniors. And then just really the important part about attendance and ensuring that the kids are logged on. And we have lots of support in our district. I'm so proud of the board just being supportive and providing all sorts of supports for our families. You cannot find another school district that is as compassionate and responsive as Peoria Public Schools. And I hear it every day from throughout the state. So, yeah, our parents and I told them if they're struggling, please contact their principals and they will work with them, or just shoot an email to myself or to the person who's over, the executive director who's over that building or that school. And Mr. Knapp, he's absolutely correct. We're very responsive. We get emails, we get phone calls, we respond immediately as soon as we can. And we're just there for our kids and our families. So thank you. That's the update. And then the testing, they'll get a little bit more. We have the antigen test, we have the PCR test. So we're really in a very good place.
Thank you. Questions on the return to school plan? Seeing none. Proposed expenditures over 2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none. Report of request under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests. Dr. Karat.
Thank you, sir. President Shaw, since our board meeting on November 23rd, we received 0 new requests, and there was 1 pending request noted on November 23rd, and it was completed. And so to date, we have received 48 requests for this calendar year at a cost of $1,700. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. We are now ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Wilson.
Yes, thank you, President Shaw. The consent agenda consists of the following items. Item number 1, gifts to school district. 2, human resources report. 3, Richwood Science Labs abatement. 4, abate taxes on the general obligation schools, Series 2017, and transfer county school facility sales tax revenue to debt service fund. Item 5, abate taxes on the general obligation school bonds, Series 2019A, and transfer county school facility sales tax revenue to debt service fund. 6, abate taxes on the taxable general obligation school bonds, Series 2017B, and transfer county school facility sales tax revenue to debt service fund. Item 7, property tax levy. Item 8, approval of the Peoria Public Schools COVID-19 Buy Next Now antigen testing medical disposal agreement. Item 9, approval of both staff and student/parent permission forms to conduct COVID-19 Buy Next Now antigen testing. Item number 10, approval of the Peoria Public Schools COVID-19 Buy Next Now antigen testing plan. Item 11, Peoria Citizens Committee of Economic Opportunity, PCCEO, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. Item 12, Peoria Public Schools School Board Scholarship. Item 13, Memorandum of Understanding with Grow Your Own Illinois regarding fiscal year 2020-2021 grant award, and that is the entirety of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Are there any items that board members would like pulled for a separate vote? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda in its entirety?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Kloss?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
Motion carries, 6 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. There is no deliberation agenda, presentations and suggestions by board members. Dr. Rankin.
Yeah, and this is in response to Ms. Wolf, who spoke earlier. I really appreciate this, and I hope that both Dr. Wilson and Dr. Karat get this also. And it's very apparent that there has not been adequate communication going back and forth between both sides. And so I would like to suggest and/or recommend that Ms. Wolf isn't the only one who is addressed talking about ACELUS and how we can make sure that we have equity for all students, but that all of the students, or all of the teachers who are using ACELUS have access to the materials and resources that Dr. Crott was speaking to Dr. Wilson about to get Ms. Wolf, and that just because Ms. Wolf is coming and speaking about ACELUS, that there are many other teachers out there who have that same need. And Ms. Wolf, I'm gonna say that I am in awe of your determination with these dates, and I would hope that when we come back in January that there's no more dates added to this and that your needs are met by the district.
Yeah, one of the, I mean, we are in a deficit, so I'm not sure, you know, what's being asked is, and Dr. Wilson, you can take it too, it's additional license for, you know, in addition to the ACELUS platform, there's a request that I'm aware of, because they're, I mean, in terms of the communication, they meet regularly with Barb Clausen. They meet regularly in grade level meetings. I mean, there is, I disagree. There is a sophisticated system of communication, okay? Number one. Number two, what's being asked is additional expenses for this, for those who are on the ACELUS platform. Are you in a, can you?
Yeah, so even as recent as 2 weeks ago, Tracy Dona provided training for all the ACELUS teachers on additional math support and ideas to support. Last week, Lisa Gifford also met with all of the virtual teachers in their POC to provide ideas and options for their support.
Yeah, we have to teach. There's that intervention time. It's not purchasing additional, we have tons of resources.
Right. And ACELUS is comprehensive. There are many layers inside of it, as opposed to IXL, a teacher is teaching, and IXL supports the teacher teaching, providing additional skill level points or instruction that align to the core. ACELUS is a comprehensive system that is layer upon layer and provides students with all kinds of options. One response Mrs. Wolf did email me this week. I have not been emailed prior to this week by her, and I responded I think 2 times back and forth. So I have been responsive, and tonight I also offered to have ACELUS provide personal PD for her to help her understand the different components of ACELUS and how it can support the students that she's asking for. So IXL is an addition that ACELUS students do not need because it's built into ACELUS. And it seems like there's a disconnect, and so I offered that support. I also offered that maybe Barb Clausen, the administrator over virtual learning, she could have a personal training with Mrs. Wolf and anyone else that wants it too. So there's a lot of work that's being done to support. The other piece that I would like to respond to is that they are very much a part of this district. We strategically put those students at 95% virtual and 5% of their homeschool, so they received all their principal, they received all the information, everything that those students are getting. Anyone's getting from their building, these virtual students. So there has been a very specific, concerted effort to make sure that those students are part of our district. And not only that, they're part of the school that they're assigned to. And I think their principals deem them theirs. If there are questions about attendance, concerns, SEL concerns, we make connections with the support staff in those buildings. So family core or social workers or counselors are connecting to the students that are in the virtual that are aligned. So there's a lot of intricacies involved that really weren't spelled out this evening, but I assure you that I will make sure that the professional development and the support is provided to Mrs. Wolf so she can feel confident with what she's giving her students.
I appreciate you both responding. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we have the TJ principal, we have Dr. Wood, we have Dr. Wilson, we have myself. So, no one blocks. If you don't get an answer, then this one and then that one until there is some resolution. But Acellus has, it's comprehensive. We shouldn't, it would be a dereliction of duty for me to come to the board and say, approve this contract for the Acellus kids when they already have access to additional support. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
Mrs. Ross?
Well, I just want to ask a question. It looks like, is it just, I mean, have we heard these concerns from other people? I have not heard them from other people. Is it just, all I hear is just from one person, that this is a problem, basically. So, maybe we should look into something different.
And I think the PD idea is a good idea, and we do want to hear from everyone. If it's legit, we'll.
And other presentations and suggestions by board members? Mr. Walder?
Yeah, going to announce these last 5 years have been so much fun. I am putting my hat back in the ring, and I'm turning in my signatures this way to run for another 5 years if the public so chooses. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, thank you. Other presentations and suggestions by board members? And, okay, so Mrs. Wolf, I did see you with your hand up. It's just that we're beyond the public comments, and that would open the door that if there were 20 people in here, then we would all have to give them the same right. So please follow up and take it offline. And I'm sure that, you know how to get in contact with board members, but I just wanted to acknowledge that. Reports from board committees?
Yeah, President Shaw, if I may.
Yes, Vice President Wilson.
So the policy committee will meet on Wednesday, December 16th at 3:30.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Mr. Walden?
Yeah, Ms. Costick isn't here tonight, but the building committee, we will be meeting on the 17th at 4 o'clock. And I think I should give a response to Mr. Knapp had asked about that. We will be discussing the issue that you had talked about on the issue of putting that on the issue. We will be talking about it at that meeting and stuff with the two. But to make a clarification for the audience, the board has already voted to proceed with the renaming of the schools. And as I understand, the purpose of this would be to get a non-binding but a referendum. That's my understanding of what the proposal is. So we'll be discussing that on the 17th too, among some other issues with building and grounds.
Thank you, Mr. Walden.
Mr. Shaw, I didn't quite hear that. Is that going to be a virtual meeting at 4 o'clock when?
Be 4 o'clock, it'll be here. I'll have my chubby little body here in person. So.
Oh, it won't be virtual?
You will be able to, yes, yes.
Okay.
Your other Mrs. Ross said, she's nodding yes, we can have it virtual. I'll be here, but we're going to have that so people can call in to it, yes.
All right.
You're welcome to join us, ma'am.
Okay. Dr. Rankin?
Yep, and the parent-teacher survey was just pulled down regarding discipline, so we will be looking at that, and we'll start to schedule meetings in 2021 for that.
Thank you. Other committee reports, any other committee reports? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And we'll go by voice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.